Welcome to the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast, where we aim to help fellow veterinary rehab therapists increase their knowledge and elevate their practice. I'm Megan Kelly.
And I'm Anae Lloyd. Together, we bring you the latest insights, research, and information in the field of veterinary rehabilitation.
This podcast is brought to you by Onlinepethealth, a leading continuing education membership for veterinary rehabilitation therapists. With Onlinepethealth, you'll have access to a wide range of online resources to help you stay up to date with the latest techniques, advances, and trends in the industry.
Our podcast features in-depth conversations with leading experts in veterinary rehabilitation. They share their own experiences and knowledge to help you improve your practice. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out in the field, our goal is to provide you with the tools and the insights you need to succeed.
So join us as we explore the exciting world of veterinary rehabilitation and help you take your practice to the next level. Hey Vetrehabbers, today it's a Behind the Vet Rehab Practice podcast, and I will bring you an inspiring behind the scenes look at vet rehab practice with Honor Jeffery. Now these podcast episodes are my absolute favorite because they give us a glimpse into the unique journeys of our fellow vet rehabbers. We've all traveled different paths to reach this point, and each of us has valuable experiences to share and lessons to teach our colleagues. Honor is a recent graduate, and she shares her story of perseverance and determination in building her client base. Despite moments of doubt, she stayed consistent and is now seeing 4 to 6 patients a day, with her practice steadily growing. She discusses her strategies, including leveraging social media and networking with local vets, and offers insightful advice based on her experiences, including lessons learned from trying to cut costs on certain aspects of her practice. If you are looking for some tips on ways to market your vet rehab practice, I have a download especially for you. It's called 20 Free Ways to Market Your Vet Rehab Practice. You can get it at onlinepethealth.com/free ways. Now, before I carry on, a quick word from our amazing sponsor, Curacao Vet. Curacao is owned by Nada Robinson. She is an integral part of our community and is always so supportive, always keen and ready to sponsor education and learning for our vet rehabber community. Nada first developed her courses at the Colorado State University, where she started the Medical Acupuncture for Veterinarian Certificate program in 1998. And in so doing, Dr. Robinson developed a science-based platform for veterinary acupuncture, and this was the first of its kind. Today, Curacao Vet offers a comprehensive curriculum in integrative medicine with a rational, evidence-supported foundation. The courses include medical acupuncture, photomedicine, botanical medicine, medical massage, and integrative rehabilitation. You can discover more at curacao.org. So over to Honor. Hey Honor, thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, no worries. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Honor, for the listeners, won't you tell them a little bit about yourself and how you got into the field of vet rehab?
So it's kind of a lengthy story, but I'll keep it nice and sweet and short for you guys. Basically, my mum is a human osteopath. And I've always been really interested in obviously working with animals and trying to sort of help get them back to full health. And she, as it turns out, went to university with the Paralympic equine osteopath who's called Karen Robinson. And I thought it was quite a good idea to do some work experience with her. And after doing a day of work experience with her, I was like, right, this is it. This is the perfect career for me. I absolutely love this. I really enjoyed interacting with patients and really enjoyed interacting with the owners as well, and kind of trying to understand biomechanics and things like that. So from then on, I kind of pursued the career of, I decided to go down the vet physio route rather than equine or canine osteopath, just because it suited me better. So I decided to pursue that career by first looking into actually doing a extended diploma, basically a BTEC in equine management with equitation, which is like the riding side of it as well, which kind of gave me a base knowledge to kind of work on for my degree. So it kind of gave me an encompassed knowledge of horses, the industry as a whole, and their biology and physiology, etc. This gave me a really massive step up, basically, to do a 4-year master's in veterinary physiotherapy with Writtle University College in Essex, which was a solely animal-based degree, which is what I wanted to do. I didn't really want to go through the human side first, just because I had a specific interest in animals, really. And that's kind of got me to where I am today as a fully qualified master's veterinary physiotherapist who's registered with RAMP and the NOBP.
It's amazing. So now your interest in starting off on the equine field, are you a horse rider?
I am absolutely. I've been riding since I was 5 years old.
Okay.
Always been a horse girl through and through.
It's so funny. So I mean, I was going to be a horse vet. That was it.
Oh, really?
And so studied veterinary, and it was so difficult to get into like equine veterinary. So when you
Mm,
qualify, it's not that easy, like as a newly qualified vet to get an equine job. And so I
mm,
was in like a mixed practice, and actually in the UK in the Isle of Wight. And then there was a bit of equine work, but it really wasn't enough. I was probably doing about 80-90% small animal. And then I just got
mm.
sucked into the small animal world and became a small animal vet. Even though I'd always wanted, I also rode from when I was younger, I wanted to be an equine vet. But so what are you doing now practice-wise? Are you treating both small animals and equines, or are you primarily equine?
Well, actually, I've got a very good mixture. I've got quite a few canine patients, but I've also got quite a few equine patients, and they're both a mixture of from just maintenance to sporting to post-operative rehab. But each case is really interesting. Like I said earlier, I'm primarily interested in horses, but it's also really valuable to me to be able to treat small animal to kind of give myself a greater understanding of both sides of the industry. And I am interested in both really, but I just have always have been more of a horsey person than a small animal slash dog person.
One good thing is that horsey people always have dogs, because horsey people are also doggy people, aren't they, right?
Absolutely. There's always a dog wandering around the yard wherever I go.
So you always have dogs to treat. So let's chat about when did you qualify now? So it was sort of the end of last year.
Yeah, absolutely. So I qualified, well, I graduated officially in September last year. So not, I haven't been practicing for a huge amount of time, but in that time, I've just kind of been doing, well, the important thing is during that time of qualifying and actually getting patients is to really get yourself out there and network, and the power of social media to be able to do that is really important as well, which is how I found out about you guys, as it turns out.
So tell us, how did you feel when you graduated? Because I mean, it's pretty overwhelming, right? Like you've been in this protected sort of studying kind of, with your colleagues and everyone studying, and you're not in the big wide world. And then suddenly you graduate and you're like, you got to go out there and now, try to find work. And for a lot of veterinary physiotherapists, there aren't jobs available where you can actually sort of, it's very difficult when you graduate to find a job where you're actually within a practice and sort of protected and guided. You're most of the time you're just like, okay, you're out there, you're on your own. So tell us how you felt. What are the feelings, and what are the steps that you took to sort of get into practice? Because now you've got your own mobile practice, you're on your own. Talk us through that.
So yeah, as you mentioned, it not to put people off at all. It is very daunting to sort of start your own practice and get out there. I won't sugarcoat that at all. It is very nerve-wracking, but at the same time, it's kind of part of what you're warned is going to happen when you leave university. It's part of the job really as a whole. You kind of get told from day one, look, you're going to be out there by yourself. It's going to be you and your patients, and that's how it's going to be. But like you said, there is the option for people to go into a working practice. There's you can go and rent a room in a veterinary practice, and sort of obviously you pay them a bit of rent, like 20% of your paycheck, for example. Or there is the opportunity to literally just go and work for a like rehab center. So there are a lot of options out there. I personally chose just to do sole trading, to just be me, myself, and I. But yeah, I did feel nervous, but I also had a lot of support from people around me. My partner was self-employed for a little while, so he kind of knew what to do and like how to get around the nerves and bits and pieces. Like I mentioned earlier, my mum's a human osteopath. She's been doing that for 40 years, I think. She kind of gave me some ideas of how she coped. It's just about talking to people around you and going, okay, this is how this person did it. This is how this person did it. And then kind of amalgamate your options from there. I was also very lucky. As part of my course, we did quite a lot of work with the public. In our final year, we had clinics where we spent, I think it was about 1,000+ hours actually working with people like the public in our clinics. So we got kind of an idea of how to handle the public and handle clients and speak to them, because that's one of the biggest parts of your job is speaking to the actual client and going like, this is what I found, this is like how we're going to deal with it, and going from there really. So as long as you kind of build a picture in your head of how to cope with it and like get an understanding, like from listening to podcasts like this, and seeing what other practitioners have done, maybe even getting in contact with other practitioners that are experienced in the field and speaking to them about it. I found that was a really useful way to get around the nerves and get around sort of feeling like you can't cope.
I love that advice. It's really important to build a network around you. And often what you'll find is, in specific areas, depending on where you are, you might have other therapists that have got overflow. Maybe they can't cope with their clients and they'll pass clients over to you.
Absolutely.
Just like finding out from them what worked for them. And like you say, finding something that's going to now work for you. So how did you get your first clients? Your very first client? I mean, that must have been like, yes, I've got my first clients.
My first client was actually a friend of my mother's, their little Pasadale Cross, and kind of went from there. She was my first canine patient, and that was really exciting actually. They kind of got in touch with me out of the blue. They got my number from my mother and said, look, I don't suppose you would want to treat my dog. Got a couple of issues, and kind of went from there really. Another thing that I found really useful for my first equine patient was I got a text from this lady saying, I found you through the NAVP website, which is one of my registry bodies. I don't suppose you treat in this area? And I was like, yes, I do. So that was really, really useful, actually being registered to the registry bodies, which we obviously have to do anyway. But to know that people are actually looking through the websites and trying to find practitioners is really, really, really useful for us, because it sort of affirms our love for our registry bodies, really.
Yeah. And it's great that they're going there. That pet owners are actually going there. So that was your first equine patient. That's so cool. So tell us now, where do you get most of your patients from? Now, you've obviously built up a little bit of a client base. Is it mainly through word of mouth, or are you getting referrals from other vet professionals or any other people that are referring patients to you?
It's kind of a mixture of both, really. Like I said, I've got a couple of people through actually people looking on my registry bodies websites, because obviously that's a really useful tool for potential clients to be able to look on the websites and go, okay, this person's in this area, they're really close to me, I'll give them a ring. That's a really valuable tool for people. So like I said, my details are all on the RAMP website and NAVP, so there's two sort of options for people there. But the main sort of form of advertising for us as sole traders is, like you said, word of mouth. That's how our business usually runs. So we'll have someone and they'll say to a friend, oh, I have my dog treated by so and so. They did a really good job. If you need their limp looking at, for example, they might be a person to call. So there's kind of lots of options out there for gaining patients and kind of getting a name out there.
Is there any sort of strategic marketing that you've done that's really worked for you?
Well, like I mentioned at the start, social media is a really, really valuable tool, because obviously it's really, really popular at the moment, and it's a really useful way to kind of connect with the wider community and connect with wider throw a wider net, I would say would be a good analogy for it, because it basically opens up your practice to people who may live further afield or who don't commonly go out and about, say like an older market, older demographic that have like small dogs, etc. They might go onto Facebook. I found that's a really, really useful tool, and just keeping your Facebook and Instagram pages up to date, constantly sort of posting every week or so, like sharing articles and bits and pieces, just so that your patients can then go, oh, they're keeping themselves up to date, they're looking at current research and keeping themselves up to date with common knowledge, really.
So those are the two main social media platforms that you're on, Instagram and
Facebook. Yeah.
How old are you now?
I'm 24.
24. So excuse me asking, but obviously
No, it's fine.
So I know that you're younger, so that you would be okay with sharing your age. What is your opinion on TikTok? Because that's the younger generation everyone always says, yeah, they're on TikTok. And I've ventured into TikTok a few times, but I go and then I pull back. I'm like, no, I'm not ready yet. I'd love to hear your opinion. And do you have a following on TikTok around your vet rehab practice?
So I'm not the biggest fan of TikTok, simply because it seems to just be sort of fun videos as such. I view Instagram and Facebook as a slightly more professional social media platform. I'm not discrediting TikTok at all. I think it's fantastic. It's another good platform that you can use. But personally, I think it's for the more sort of social side of videos and bits and pieces. I do know a few vet physios who have TikTok, but I personally just prefer to use Instagram and Facebook for the reasons stated before, that it just seems more professional in my view.
I'm with you on that. So yeah, I've just never really worked TikTok out. And also I feel like on TikTok, you can't really build relationships, whereas on Instagram,
No.
you know, people go into your direct messages, people direct message you on Facebook. It just doesn't happen on
Yeah.
TikTok. You're just
No.
put in front of all these new people in all these crazy different countries. And it's just, for me, I really have struggled to get in front of my like ideal target audience. Whereas on
Yeah.
Instagram and Facebook, I feel like the algorithm works for me. And it puts me in front of the right people that I can help.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. It's like I said, I feel like TikTok's a slightly more sort of a more social site. It's more of a like a fun platform rather than actually being able to promote a business and actually get the platform to work for you in terms of, like you said, putting people in the right places and getting the right sort of people looking at your content.
Yeah. So let's change direction a little bit and chat about your everyday. So you're a mobile practitioner. What does like a day in Honest Life look like?
Okay. So for me, I start work officially at about 8:30, 9-ish, depending on obviously when the first patient books in. Get up in the morning, grab a coffee, grab my breakfast. I would have usually made my packed lunch the night before, just so it's so much easier. Grab that and head straight out of the door to my first patient. So I will usually treat a patient or leave like an hour's slot for each patient, just in case, because quite often we get chatting with the client and kind of overrun a bit. So it's good to just leave that hour to kind of give me some spare leeway. And yeah, I will tend to typically say to people, look, I'm in this area or this area, and then on the such and such a day, and sort of say, okay, we can book you in this day because I'm in this place. And I'll generally spend the majority of the day kind of like traveling around to people, have a break at lunchtime to have my lunch or eat on the go, and then get home. And that's when I'll typically sort of write up my case notes, get everything sorted, get invoices sent off, and then I can relax. And that's my day really, usually.
And how many patients on average are you seeing per day?
So at the moment, I'm not seeing as many as I would like, but again, like business is slow to start off. I'm not going to get an instant client base. That's another thing that people should be aware of. It's not just like done, there's a client base straight in front of you. It does take a little bit of time to build it up. But typically I will probably see between sort of like 4 to 6 patients a day, roughly.
That's
I'd
good.
say that was quite a good happy medium, really.
Yeah, that's good. Great to start off with. Listen, and then eventually you'll get so busy you'll have to get someone to come and help you.
Yeah,
So this is the nice
absolutely.
phase that you're in now.
That's hopefully what's going to happen. Yeah, that'd be lovely.
And then Anna, did you invest in any equipment, any lasers or any equipment, or are you just starting off just with your hands at the moment?
Well, I was very lucky to be gifted a amount of money from my parents, who basically gave me like a startup fund, which was really, really, really kind of them, and I am eternally grateful for them for doing that, because it's given me the opportunity to buy all of my vital pieces of equipment, or the equipment that I deem to be like the essentials kit for a vet physio, effectively. So I have a therapeutic laser, which is again, like I said, my vital piece of equipment. I use it almost on the daily. I have a pulse mag, or PEMFT, basically is pulsed electromagnetic field therapy. Again, essential, really valuable for pain relief, vaso and constriction and dilation, all that kind of useful stuff. I also have an ultrasound machine, which is super duper useful for equine patients, because as you probably know, they are prone to doing tendon injuries and all that kind of stuff. So it's really, really vital for that kind of work. And I also have a Epiney heat pad. I don't know if you've heard of those, but they're super duper useful, and I use that every single day. So those are the kind of pieces of equipment that I have in my toolkit, and use basically every single day. But like you said, the majority of work will be done with my hands. There's my toolkit, all my information and tools are in my hands.
And do you keep that all in your car? I mean, do you unpack your car every day and take it out, or do you leave it in your car?
Well, because the equipment's worth a considerable amount of money, for my sort of own peace of mind, really, I take it out and I put it in a safe space in my house every evening. It's not a great amount of work, really. The equipment's not that bulky, but I think I am going to invest in like a toolbox with wheels, just so that it's easier just to kind of slip out the car, roll down the driveway, and pop straight in the house.
Yeah, yeah, because that does start to, especially when you're finishing later and later and later, you'll be like, oh, I'm just gonna leave.
Aching, yeah.
You definitely don't want to get someone to break into your car and steal it. That would be
Oh
dreadful.
gosh, no, that's exactly it. And it like I said, for insurance purposes as well, it just means that not only is my car safer, all my equipment is safer, and it's just peace of mind for myself, really.
Yeah. So do you have a good relationship with the vets that are around your area? I mean, have you had some time to go and pop in there and see them?
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually really fortunate. I moved into a new house in June last year, and as it turns out, my next door neighbour is a vet nurse for one of the local vets.
Oh, wow,
So
that's
really
convenient.
fortunate, yeah, really convenient. So I now have a really good working relationship with that vet. I am really close with another vet in the area as well. They're really eager to refer bits and pieces. I'm actually I work alongside Langford Veterinary Group, which is attached to Bristol University, and work alongside their farm and equine department. Their equine department is actually just down the road from me, which is very convenient. So I do a lot of work with them. Yeah, I think it's really, really important to get involved with your local vets. Some vets, none of the ones I've spoken to, but some vets can be quite dismissive because, of course, they get hundreds of people coming going, I don't know, equine therapist, I'm a vet physio, whatever, and saying, can I work with you? But as long as you build that sort of personal like rapport with them and go, look, I'm here if you need me. Feel free to send me anybody you want or ask any questions, and just kind of stick your head in the door and say hi. Then they're much more likely to be like, oh, they were really nice. We can sort of speak to them in the future type thing. But yeah, I think building a rapport with your vets is really, really important.
And what are your long-term plans for the business? I mean, are you planning to open up a brick and mortar? Do you think you'll ever join onto another veterinary practice? What are the plans? Or are you just sort of seeing how it goes?
At the moment, to be honest, like you said, I'm just sort of kind of seeing how it goes, seeing what kind of thing suits me, what style I want to go into. I have always kind of had the idea of, or the thought of in the future when I can afford it, to have a practice. But I think, to be honest, it's more practical and it's clients respond far better to be able to actually go to them. Especially for equine patients, it's quite a sort of hassle to box up a horse and take them somewhere. Whereas it's far easier for them to have someone just turn up and treat their horse. But I think I'm just going to kind of see how it goes, kind of go with the flow and see where the future takes me, where finances take me, and bits and pieces like that,
But
really.
I think also I mean, I remember being a mobile practitioner too, and there's this balance between wanting the brick and mortar because you can do so much more. Um,
Mm,
you've got more equipment and, I mean, especially in the small animal side of things, I just wanted that
yeah.
under treadmill. So, that was something that was missing in a lot of my
Mm,
treatments. Then there is this balance between, and I remember like maybe 2 years into my practice, sort of longing for those days back when I was mobile, when life was a little more simple. So when you had the brick and mortar, you're more like in a machine factory, like one patient after the other. And, that's a good thing because you can generate more income because you can see more patients. But then with that comes the overheads and usually more
mm,
staff. And one thing that is nice about being mobile is that you don't have those overheads. So when you do go on holiday, you don't have to worry about paying them. Whereas, when you've got your practice, you've got all the overheads that you have to pay. So enjoy the mobile while you've got it now. Like, I think it's a great way to start. It's a really great way just to get into the field, to learn, how to communicate with pet owners, and you also learn, what works for you, how to have, you build up all these relationships with vets. And it's great to start mobile because when you eventually do then go into your brick and mortar, you've established yourself, you've got a client base, you've got relationships with other veterinary practices and other vet professionals, whoever they may be. So when you do start, you've already got this referral network that comes to you.
Absolutely. I think it's very useful, certainly, to be able to start off that way. And I think for particularly with the slight difference between being a vet in comparison to vet physio is obviously the majority of our equipment is right here in our hands. So we don't really particularly need a massive practice or anything. We don't need massive equipment. The majority of all of our work is literally in the back of our car, or like I said, in our hands. So it's quite useful to just kind of start out that way, like you said, and just build up a client base. Because yeah, it would be really useful to have a practice, but like you said, it's far easier when you've got when you've got an actual established client base, because then you know that you're not just paying lots of money for a building and then not actually having the revenue coming in to support that. That was one of the things that I did look into when I first sort of started out, was renting a room somewhere, whether it was in like a vet practice or elsewhere. But it wasn't financially viable to spend, for example, like £200 a month minimum when you didn't have that coming back into that income feeding it back in. But again, like you said, if the future's out there, it's available, it's something that could happen. So yeah, like I said, I'm just kind of going to go with the flow and see where life takes me, and hopefully eventually I'll end up with somewhere that I can call my own.
The suggestion that you made earlier was that split percentage. I think that works better than rent, because if you rent a room and you've got no clients, you still have to pay the rental. But it's really a great way to do it, is to set up with a vet or whoever's room you're renting is a percentage. So you normally go, I think average is like 70-30. So you take 70% of your income and they take 30%. And then, if you don't see clients, then you lose nothing. And their rooms anyway, so they're not losing anything either. So it's like a win-win for everyone. So I know that you've only been, consulting now for sort of 6 or 7 months and had your practice. But if you can think back, is there anything that you would change? Is there anything that you did that you thought, oh, I wish I hadn't have done that?
I think the only real thing that I can kind of think of is actually getting someone to professionally do my sort of business cards and my flyers. Because that's a really vital sort of first impression that you give to people, is even just basic things like the quality of your cards, like the quality of the paper that they're put on is so important, because people go, oh, this is quality paper, this is thick card. It's obviously a serious business. And actually looking at the design of the card and the design of your flyers is really important, because if it's too jumbled or too basic or whatever, it's can be quite off-putting to those who actually go and look at it. I've had a friend of mine who's a graphic designer completely redesign my flyer, and it's so much better. It's like simple things like adding a QR code so that people can just scan the QR code and find your website, which has all of the like really in-depth details of your practice. It means that you can kind of take off some of the sort of unnecessary detail that's on your flyers or business cards, and just have a QR code so that people can kind of walk past your post and go, oh, that looks interesting, scans the QR code, and then they can have it on their tabs and read it later.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing, I would say, would be a really good tip for new practitioners, to kind of make sure that your physical advertising, so your business cards and your flyers, actually look really professional, because people are far more likely to take you more seriously, really.
Yeah. Did you design your own in the beginning?
I did, yes, I did, yeah. Because I mean, I have an interest in sort of art and graphic design anyway, so I thought it would save me a little bit of money that I could use elsewhere to buy equipment and to fuel my car, to actually be able to design it myself. Because that's one of the main things when you're starting up, is actually paying for the fuel to go around, to go and speak to vets and speak to different rehab centres and bits and pieces, because it will become expensive at the end of the day, because you're not getting that income back in with clients, obviously.
Yeah. Well, your logo looks very professional now. So
thank you.
Yeah. So that's really good advice. Is there any other advice that you'd like to share with new grads as they're sort of coming into their career? Anything else that you think would be useful for them?
The first thing that I'd probably say is please, please, please do not put too much pressure on yourselves to instantly get a client list straight away. That's one big part of sort of piece of wisdom that I can pass on. My partner's mother actually gave me like one of the biggest confidence boosts. She said that she'd bumped into a vet physio while she was out for a walk and spoke to her about sort of how she got her client base up and running, and said that it took her about 6 to 7 months. It can take up to a year to build a full client base. And I think that that's a really, really valuable piece of information when you start out, that it's not going to be instant. You will have to dig into your savings, but it will happen. I went through several periods of time where I was like, oh my gosh, it's never going to happen. I'm never going to get my first client. What am I going to do? I'm not going to have to get a second job. But it will happen. You've just got to give it time, and you have to be on it all the time with your advertising. Even if you're not working with patients, for example, getting up in the morning, starting work at like sitting down at your desk at about 8:30, and just going out there, like creating social media posts, updating your website, looking at research, finding different places that you can go and put your cards in, just being on it all the time, and you will get there. You will get your first client, but you have to be actively searching. You have to be actively putting yourself out there. I would say that would probably be the biggest piece of advice that I can sort of impart as such.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I think it's about being consistent.
Yeah.
So, like sometimes we think, oh, well, we've just gone once to go and see a vet practice.
Yeah.
It's about popping in and dropping off a flyer, another flyer, or just finding reasons to pop in there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've got a great resource. It's how to get more vet referrals. I'll pop the links for the listeners in the description. But I've got lots of tips and advice on how to get referrals from vets in there. You just got to be consistent, and you can't stop. You can't just think
absolutely.
Doing something once is going to get a result. It's doing something every single day, for 30 days, for 60 days, and then suddenly it's like an influx, and you're like, oh my gosh, this has actually worked.
I can actually second that. Definitely, I can second that, because like I was saying, one of the practices in my local area that I've now built a really close rapport with, it was literally just once I got my flyers sorted, I went and I handed them in. Once I got my business sorted, I handed them in, and just kept going in. And now I'm working alongside one of their other vet physios that they work with, to provide treatment in the local area, because they tend to get that physio in their practice, whereas I'm mobile, so I can go out and treat patients that potentially can't actually make it into the practice. So that, kind of hopefully reaffirms what you've just said, that if you keep at it, keep talking to the vets. And now I've got sort of first name basis with all of them, really. It is about consistency. You're very, very right by saying that.
And tell me, are you still riding on it at the moment?
I am, yeah. I actually I play polo in the summer.
No.
And hunt in the winter. So I try and keep myself in the saddle as much as I can. But no, absolutely love every second.
Awesome. Well, it's been so lovely chatting to you, and I'm so excited to watch you on your vet rehab journey.
Thank you so much.
Please keep me updated, and I think we'd probably have to have in about a year or two, just a follow up to this conversation to see how things
absolutely
are on.
I'd love that. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you for your time. It's been amazing chatting.
Oh no, thank you for having me. It's been wonderful to chat about these things.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I load a new podcast. I'm here every week talking to vet rehab therapists from all over the world about all things vet rehab. A big thanks to our sponsor, Curacor. Their sponsorship allows us to be able to give this podcast to you for free. So please go and check them out at curacor.org. Don't forget to bookmark the next Vet Rehab Summit. It's on Saturday, the 31st of August, 2024. Come and be a part of the world's largest online veterinary rehabilitation conference created specifically for you, the Vet Rehabber community. Onlinepethealth members get VIP complimentary access to the Vet Rehab Summit. For more information about continuing education for vet rehabbers, you can go to onlinepethealth.com.